It's not just strategy. An edge in day trading thrives or dies by the trader behind it. Welcome to Trading Ascension, where the information guides you along the personal and spiritual growth journey toward profitable day trading. I'm Jason E., and in each episode, you'll discover practical self-development tools and transformative mindset practices to break through emotional blocks, mental noise, and self-sabotaging habits, so your mindset can finally support your edge. This show is for growth-minded day traders who want result-focused trading psychology and personal growth tools to sharpen their edge and decrease their emotional swings. In today's episode, we're doing a Trading Ascension style deep dive on consistency, the skill that separates traders who occasionally win from traders who reliably win and close to predictably win. When you're at your absolute best for extended periods of time, not just, lucky, stints, when this happens, certain factors are lining up near perfectly. This episode breaks down exactly what those factors are so you can spot them, duplicate them, right? Increase them and build them into your trading business. But more importantly, we'll illuminate some gaps. Those moments when we're not aligning with our best chances of success. And we're doing this so you can close those gaps and trade more consistently. So words matter. We're going to define a lot today. And often we just throw them around without truly understanding what they mean. And this can put us at a disadvantage because language is casting spells. That's why they call it spelling. So using words that we don't know what they mean or using the wrong word can lead us astray. Today we're defining these words and we're going to do it, precisely just to get on the same page and elevate our trading professionalism. I'm going to slow down at certain parts to ensure that the words I use are the words that I mean, right? So we'll get technical, but at the end, as always, we're going to end with some simple action steps. Action steps. And I want to make a quick distinction before we dive deeper. When we talk about consistency, we're going to mostly be pointing at consistency of input. Now, when we talk about the output, I'm going to try to call that out directly. But the uniform input that goes in and comes out, we're going to use a word that's a programming term called deterministic, right? And maybe I'll say that today. I don't know. I'm just talking about output, but deterministic output, right? Since we're being exact with our words, that means that identical input will always produce identical outputs with no variation, right? So deterministic output from our consistency, right? So that's the conversation today. But first, before we dive in, who should stick around for this episode? Well, today's topic is specifically for the inconsistent performer. You have great days and terrible days. You know you can trade well, but you can't replicate it. You have the skill, but the results are unpredictable. This information today will help the almost there trader. You have a system, you understand psychology, but you can't execute it day after day, right? You might be frustrated because you can see the path, but you can't walk it consistently. And then the frustrated streaker, right? They'll grow from this information today. And this is the trader who rides amazing winning streaks and then crushing lows that make them question everything. And maybe like I was, you're tired of the emotional roller coaster. And there's great value here today for the overthinker. You're trying too hard to be perfect and end up paralyzed or inconsistent because you're always second guessing. If any of that's you, then you already know how painful inconsistency is. But here's why inconsistency is worth the focus today and the work to build it. I would argue the biggest advantage consistency gives a day trader is deterministic output. Reliable data that tells you exactly what that uniform action will yield in the market. From there, just like a science experiment, you'll make tweaks for your desired results. When I was young, every kid made a vinegar and baking soda volcano, right? So I'd get some clothes hangers, shape them in kind of like a triangle pyramid, take some wet paper towels and just wet newspapers and wrap it around, wait till it dried, and then paint it, right? And then the fun part, right? The measuring cup, getting that perfect ratio for maximum foaming of mixing those ingredients together, and it could just bubble that fake lava over the top. So I would be like, man, how many food drops am I using? How many cups of this, cups of that? And I didn't do that because I was some accuracy obsessed scientist, right? I'm gonna keep it real. I just couldn't waste the family's resources doing what, my parents would consider some dumb shit, right? Couldn't do that. But that experience applies directly to trading. So I would take, like a half cup of vinegar, 2 tablespoons of baking soda, 3 drops of red food coloring, 2 drops of orange food coloring, a little bit of dish soap, just a little drop in there. And that would give me a predictable reaction because I knew exactly what that input was. Now, hold on to that volcano analogy for a second. Let me ask you this. How can anyone expect similar chemical reactions without similar ingredients? You can't. It would be silly to have that expectation, right? So imagine someone said, because this is basically what day trading is. If someone said every time the lava flows the same distance and looks the same, you get paid. We'd lock in that ratio, right? Write it down, set in stone, like a trading plan, and then we can optimize it. I would measure dozens of half a cups of vinegar just to save energy, right? I know that's exactly what's needed. Let me prep. If they said, the lava needs to be a little bit more red. Okay, well, I know the recipe. Let me just take a drop of orange out. It would be simple. This next level planning, this tweaking would only be possible because of that written recipe. That's consistency's power. Tweak, elevate, optimize, all on the back of constant input. And here's the breakthrough. Consistency, its biggest byproduct is condition recognition. And I don't know if anyone says this. And they probably do. Again, a lot of times people get in videos and say, oh, no one talks about this. And you're like, yeah, I know 50 people talking about that. But this is something that's not talked about a lot. The biggest byproduct, right? The biggest reason for you to be a consistent trader, what should motivate you to be a consistent trader is the byproduct of condition recognition, right? I'm going to say this again. The biggest gift consistency gives day traders is enhanced ability to understand conditions. And I'll stand on that statement that one identifiable difference between profitable and unprofitable traders is the ability that we're calling recognition of conditions. It's huge. So there's 2 major conditions. There's market conditions and there's internal conditions, right? And consistency enhances both of these. Constant identical data, it reveals what market conditions are ideal for your strategy. Constant identical data input reveals when to take a trade versus when to not take a trade. Constant identical input reveals beyond rules when to sit out for the day. Also, having constant identical data input reveals when to stop trading for the day. And I asked a few guests on this show when I was novice. This is one of my favorite questions because I was trying to figure it out. I said, how do you know when enough is enough for the day, right? And I would, say on any side, right? Positive P&L or negative P&L side, how do you know when enough is enough? And a lot of these advanced traders that I talked to earlier in my career, they said it's a feeling. And I didn't get that. I needed rules. And then I realized consistency builds internal state awareness, the best guide for stopping points. And even if you have a rule, right? Even if you say, when I lose X trades in a row, right? Or any rule related like that, that X in a row usually means market conditions are off or the internal state is off. Now, since you are an elevated spiritual being listening to a psychology show like this, consistency builds condition awareness so you can trust yourself and stay a step ahead of the data in this right, just like these master traders that I've interviewed. This is an earned skill. Don't get it twisted with the version of us or the part of the journey where we just don't want to write down a plan and traders say, oh, I'm trading intuitively, right? When the truth is, they're just avoiding accountability. No plan, right, means that I can't fail at it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the earned edge ability that can serve as an advantage for a trader when they say things like, the market isn't ideal. I'm watching, I'm not trading today. Based on how I'm feeling today, I'm probably done for the day. That's real edge because understanding yourself is enhanced. Market conditions and an understanding of that is enhanced, and internal conditions. This is the greatest gift that consistency can give a trader, and it turns into a true edge. So if consistency unlocks the ultimate gift of condition recognition, we better define exactly what it is, right? So to start, we'll define consistency. In the dictionary, it's agreement or harmony of parts or features to one another or a whole. Specifically, harmony of conduct or practice with your profession. Now, listen to that: harmony of conduct, harmony of parts working as a whole. Now, this is what we call in this community our system, right? These parts together are our system. When the system is harmonious, that's consistency. So, exactly what parts need to be in harmony, right? Because consistency is this constant identical input. So, these actions need to apply to, of course, our trading plan. We need to have uniformity, right? This constant input that's identical. We need to have this uniformity entering the market. We need to have this uniformity managing trades while in the market. And then the third part of a trading plan is we need to have this uniform method of exiting the market. Now, this uniformity, when we're building the foundation of consistency, it can also extend to contract size, risk management, beliefs, and expectations. Now, with contract size, that doesn't mean you have to take, the same contract. It just means that you have to have a system in which you're over time taking the same, right? Not per trade. It's just like a consistent person can work out every day and a consistent person can work out every other day. They're just consistent in what their specific rules are, right? So again, it applies to the contract size and things like that, which are all respective to your trading plan. But there are off the charts parts that need harmony too. There's a pre-trade routine. And let me make this ridiculously obvious because I talk to people and there's some pushback on pre-trade routines, or if or morning routines. It would be for a lot of us. What if, let me ask you this, think about this. What if the button to turn on your computer, it moved every day, right? You had to find it. What if the ticker symbol changed daily, right? And you had to search for it and load it like we have to do in futures quarterly? What if you had to do that every day? What if you woke up and had to search for the room and the cabinet where your computer was every morning? You'd hate it, right? It'd be a waste of time, a waste of energy, obviously. But somehow, we accept random pre trading routines and don't see its effect, not seeing the leak of mental capital or the wasted decision making that happens before game time even starts. Then we hit the market expecting to morph into a consistent person after randomness gorging all before the market. And, here's the truth: an inconsistent pre trading routine or morning routine equals squandered mental capital, especially if you trade, like I said, in the morning of your time zone. And even if you don't, right, the same principle applies. Maybe you trade a different session, or like the London session, Asian session or something, or you just live in a place where it's not in the morning. If this is the case, you might want to carve out 45 to 60 minutes before the market opens for you to lock in an ideal internal state of being, right? So we need consistency across our trading plan, our strategy, and our pre-trade or slash morning routine. But for complete harmony, you need your state of being included. This is where a lot of us drop the ball. So internal state harmony is I would define this as the in the moment awareness of two things. One, your daily objectives and any bodily sensations. When you have internal harmony, you have mental proximity to your objectives. You know what they are, right? You're able to recognize them. And you have this recognition of bodily sensations. So let's talk about this for a moment because it's almost binary, right? On or off. In any moment while trading, are we in a mental and emotional state that's has proximity to our objectives for the day and to our internal sensations, right? Have we got hijacked by upheaval in the body? Have we lost our ability to remember what we are supposed to be doing from an action standpoint? When we're in an ideal state, we can easily follow our trading plan. We know exactly what to do because we have the plan, right? It's written. We're aware of the plan. And we're in a unemotional place to where we can follow that plan. But here come the nervous system, right? Acts up, and it can force us into that sympathetic state where we can veer from the plan. So, one of the first steps is having that written plan, and we talk about that every week. And this gives us a chance at consistency, right? Gets us in the game. But even with a plan, we can lose awareness of it, right? A lot of times we have a plan and then we get emotional and we're on tilt, but we had the plan. The only way to get ahead of that down regulation of the nervous system is awareness of internal sensations. That's why that's part of the picture. When you have consistent input, you can identify and you can say things like, okay, this is how it feels to be a great trader, right? This is what following a plan feels like. And then you can cultivate that way of being. And when things start to rise up, your hand might start shaking, your jaw gets tight, right? You start to notice that. You have the awareness to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is not how masterful trading feels. Now, it's a range. You're not going to feel the same every day, but you're going to know because of this consistent input, right? And least factors changing on your behalf, you're going to be able to dial in the range of what it feels like when you're at your best, when you're able to act in your own best interest with accuracy. So here's what happens though. You get triggered, chest tightens, gut churns, whatever sensations you experience. And then right then, actions start to misalign with our daily objectives. And then we start revenge trading, over trading, right? Facing hesitation, the out of the plan trades and exits. Actions that, they fight the clear headed daily objectives that we had, and they disrupt the actions that would lead to our bigger goals. We become short sighted. When your nervous system gets hijacked and downregulated, you literally lose the plot. So we need harmony in these three areas: trading actions, routine, and state of being. And this is foundational to consistency. Even knowing this, right? Harmonious actions can be hard. Well, why can they be hard, right? We need to talk about that. Just outside of the reluctance to create and write down a plan and a trading strategy and a routine, the biggest block to consistency is these emotional pulls towards subconscious goals, the uprising of that sympathetic nervous system state. And here's what that looks like. You have the plan, you know the rules, but then something triggers you. And that becomes the catalyst that pulls you off the course. And then we're back into the, you know how it is. We're back into revenge trading after a loss. Hesitation when it's a perfect setup. Over trading, right? When you're up, giving that money back. Exiting early because you're scared. And these aren't random. They're the subconscious goals, right? They're what the down regulation is say, oh, these are the new goals. I need to prove I'm not a loser. That's number one priority right now. Top priority is I need to avoid feeling stupid. You know what we need to gear towards, and everything needs to be aimed at us locking in this win before it disappears. And we do this without identifying these subconscious pools because we're getting hijacked. And these actions that feel right, but they produce the wrong results. So one of the first steps is we got to have brutal honesty during the slip. What actions are you compelled to take instead of the plan? You need to be aware of them. And I want to suggest something. It's naming that version of you, right? We can name the actions and we can name the version of us. So for me, I've battled Wason, my whack version of Jason. I call him Wason, right? Sometimes Mason, right? Because he's a menace. But when this fool shows up, he wants to attack. Aggressive revenge trades, pressing buttons. He's had both of us arrested a few times, right? He's just whack. And he was fine. You know, it was cool when I was younger and about that action. But Wason has no place near my trading business, right? And I'm just trying to help you. I'm having the conversation that, you know, it may make me sound crazy, but that can help you separate for some of these tilt situations, right? We're getting higher awareness from it. So Wason, that's what I'm calling it. Sounds crazy or not. A simple rant about this person, like I just did, with low self-condemnation, right? We're not condemning ourselves. We're just creating space between us and them, right? Me and him. And that mental awareness field, right? That space between us, it becomes open and easy to see when something enters it, right? It's not the weeds in the jungle and there's all this stuff and I don't know when Wason's sneaking up. I've created this space to where as soon as he steps in that field, oh, yeah, that fool's here. And here's the most important part of this show. When Wason shows up, he has his own agenda. I have my plan. And what do most traders do with this conflict? And what I used to do is you try to outsmart the sympathetic nervous system, right? So he'll be saying, go long. So I think, nah, I'm going to go short to defeat Wason. A trader paralyzed by fear, they might say, I'll show him, and enter anyway, right? Thinking they're overcoming fear. And this is a problem. In that deregulated state, you're not in proximity to your true plan. It's been deprioritized, removed from your awareness. So even the opposite actions aren't from an ideal state of being. They're still dysregulated. So the answer is you have to initially do nothing. No action. No action is powerful for two reasons, right? We call it sitting on your hands in trading. Number one, it avoids account damage. You don't take actions to take you backwards. Being still and staying in one spot is not moving backwards in trading. Number two, it helps you take on true power. You learn to absorb the discomfort, right? And physics backs this. I often talk about the second law of thermodynamics. When we hit maximum capacity, this emotional overwhelm, we usually take actions to dissipate that energy, right? We're seeking relief, right? The reason why we're revenge trading is because the down regulation, and that's going to provide relief. And sometimes that relief is, killing your account. But it's what the nervous system wants. So when we sit with that energy, breathing deeply, observing it, absorbing it, looking for those body sensations. When we do this, physics promises us, science promises us a reorganization over time, not immediately, right? And it can happen immediately, but usually you have to build up your capacity. And that old capacity that was the ceiling, right, where you're just feeling this angst, it can become the new baseline, the new floor. You're elevated as a human. And it sounds magical. I'm not going to lie. It feels magical, right, to be honest, but it's just science. The most powerful step towards consistency is learn to sit in the fire, tolerate the discomfort of not taking action, any action, right? Don't get tricked into taking the opposite action. Don't take any action while you're deregulated, while you're in that state of you're not aligned. And once you start to absorb this energy, only then down the road can you take planned action that's aligned with the bigger goals. Without this, your harmonious system, it's going to stay derailed by emotional autopilot. No rules or routine tweaks can fix the need for you to be able to sit and absorb that energy. And I like to think about it as that energy is a higher level of being. When you're feeling overwhelmed, think about, hey, you know what? I need to find a way to be able to hold this energy, right? I need my avatar to perform greater. Take it as a challenge. So now that we know the block, right, emotional pulls towards these subconscious goals, here's what to focus on to build real consistency, right? And it's like how many of these? 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say 5 daily practices you can do. The first one is an objective audit. You want to start your trading session by writing down that plan for the day so it's fresh on your mind. So, for example, like I'm going to take 3 setups today and even more detailed, like max 1% risk. I'm going to stop at negative 2R or plus 4R, right? Because we need those rules until we build up that condition recognition, right? So it's okay to have those. Or I'm going to take 5 perfect A plus setups, stopping immediately if Wason shows up, right? Or whatever version of you shows up. So you're writing down this clear plan for the day. Clear input, actions equal success that day. You don't want any vague goals here. Nothing like, I'm going to make money. I'm going to be in the green, right? Because these actions, these actual actions, not outcomes, they become your North Star when that pull to the subconscious plan hits. Then 2, you want to check your state, right? And you want to do this as often as possible before you start trading, before every trade, between trades. And you just want to pause for 3 seconds. How am I breathing? Is it shallow? Is it rigid? Because that's a red flag. Is it deep? Is it calm? What are the body sensations that I'm having, right? Let me just scan my avatar. Is my chest tight? Is my gut uneasy, right? Is there that light feeling in the back of my head? Check those sensations, right? Because you know what they feel like because you're working on consistency and what they should be like, right? Just because you took a snapshot when you did things well and said, okay, I did things well under this condition. Let me ensure that I'm somewhere in proximity to feeling that way. You can control this. You have power over your body and your cells. And then the last part is, what am I thinking? What am I thinking right now? Right? Is there thoughts of fear, thoughts of greed, thoughts of revenge? Are there thoughts of me spending this money that's unrealized? Ooh, this is going to be something for a car, right? And attached to a story, what are you thinking? So you want to do this 3-step state check-in. And this is going to give you a clear view of your internal dashboard, because no alignment should mean no trade. Sit on your hands. And then 3 is, let's call it pull identification, right? Do you feel the urge to deviate from your plan? If so, you want to name that action out loud or the person, right? So you can name the person or the action because we're naming it to create space between who we are truly and this energy, this state that's showing up. So I might say something like, you know what, I want a revenge trade because I'm feeling like a loser. I want to exit early. Oh, my hands on the mouse. I want to exit early. I'm scared of giving back these profits. This is, I'm up, right? I want to override my plan. I want to overtrade right now and prove how good I am today. Run this scoreboard up. So Wason's here. This dude wants to just go in the opposite direction, right? Because he thinks that direction is silly and the market plan doesn't work. Whatever it is, right? Naming breaks the spell that these individuals and these entities and these emotions have on us. It gives separation, because when these states take over, they can become us. And then only afterwards where we're like, damn, I didn't have to do that. That's something I always, cultivate in my mind is you don't have to do this. I don't have to do that, right? Because you feel like you do at the time. So naming breaks the spell. You can't fix what you won't admit. And 4, this is the game changer, right? We talked about this before, and I'll bring it back again at the end. But step 4 is the fire tolerance that you have to do. And a lot of traders fail here. You have to learn no action first before opposite action, before trying to get to the plan, before any of those tricks, right? So why does opposite action fail, right? Well, think about it. If you're scared after a loss, you take the opposite direction trade just to prove to yourself, or, are you afraid of the pullback? So you're forcing the entry because you're like, oh, it's going to keep trending. Whatever it is, if you're trying to do the opposite of what that emotion is telling you, it feels like a rebellion, but it's dysregulated action. It's like flooring the gas, but still going in the wrong direction. You're moving, and you're moving faster, but it's faster towards failure. The real skill is learning to sit in the fire, absorb the energy that you're feeling in your body, breathe deeply, upgrade yourself. So you have to have some awareness of this. If your chest starts to tighten, right? Don't trade. Wait 30 seconds minimum. Revenge, the urge to do that. Don't trade. Wait 30 seconds. Chill out. FOMO, right? You feel it kicking in. Don't trade. Wait 30 seconds. Chill out. There's at least a 30 seconds fire tolerance, right? You might want to raise it up to 30 minutes after bad trades. No action when dysregulated over fake discipline through a bad filter. 30 seconds of fire tolerance over 30 plus minutes of bad trading or a ruined day. Only after mastering stillness can you take planned action or plan aligned action. Okay? Number 5 is the condition alignment. You only want to trade when the 3 conditions align. Your internal state, right? That's that 3-state check, right? If that's green, let's go. Market conditions, right? Our consistency has helped building our understanding of this. So your setup, when it's present, you want to trade, right? If you're a range trader and the first 90 minutes of the market is these huge swings, you might want to sit out. If you're a trend trader, right, in the pre-market and the first hour is in a range, that's time you're sitting out, maybe for the day. You can gain this understanding from consistent input. It yields this gift to you as a trader. And then there's environmental, right? You want to have a focused workspace. I won't say quiet because everyone doesn't do their best in quiet. You want to have a focused workspace, something that helps you lock in truly, right? I think we have to understand the pull towards distraction and dopamine. You might say that 4 live streams while you're trading is helping you, but it could be splitting your energy. So you have to be honest with yourself, right? You may say that, having your phone on and playing a game keeps you from getting bored, but maybe you need to face that boredom so you can elevate. So your environmental space, you got to have it locked in. Did you sleep well? Right? Sleep is a huge part of brain function. The brain uses so much of the body's energy. Large majority of the energy just goes to keeping the brain working in a human. So sleep well, and again, no distractions. If any of these are red, you want to sit out. If they're all green, then you're in a great place to execute. And then back to number 4, right? Um, a lot of people jump to discipline and trying to get back to the plan through emotional upheaval, but true consistency equals tolerating discomfort without action. That's a good nuance there. And let me say this again, because there's a pull to say, I'm feeling this way. And even I talk about the checklist that I use, right? And so you might get that confused here. So let me be clear. The checklist to enter in a pre-trade, right? There are certain levels of emotional upheaval that keeps you grounded, keeps you on top of the mind. And that's more like the pre-trade setup and where you're having your objectives together. But if you're having trouble with this upheaval, what's better than trying to go back to the checklist and trade under that emotional upheaval is to chill out, do nothing. Again, true consistency equals tolerating discomfort without action. And that's going to equal condition recognition. Knowing your system works because you wait for the right internal and market conditions. So these 5 practices can turn chaos into harmony, and a harmonious system, right? All those parts working together is the true definition of consistency. So let me close. Let me pull this all together. So the big idea is consistency equals the harmony of parts working as a whole. You have your trading actions plus your pre-trade routine plus your state of being, which equals constant input. Constant input creates constant data. Constant data grants you a higher level of understanding of gnosis called condition recognition. Condition recognition is the holy grail. And now that I think about it, a lot of traders, they're probably better than me, but they trade certain systems in which they try to know exactly what the market's doing, even if it's not related to their plan. They just want to know where the market's going. Not even, I get in here, I get in there, and just, I want to be a master of predicting the market, which no one can truly do. But condition recognition is the holy grail. That's what they're really looking for. They're looking for an understanding of conditions, and that can only come from consistency. So this condition recognition, it comes in a few steps, right? The market, right? Is your edge live or should you sit out? The internal recognition that you're granted from consistency, is the nervous system primed or is it on its way to getting hijacked? And even environmental, right? Does your setup, your situation support your proper execution of trades? Consistent actions equal the only path. Random input equals a random data, no clarity. And so we talked about what blocks it, right? And that was emotional pulls, to revenge, to hesitation, to overtrade, to exit early. All of those things are plans of the sympathetic nervous system, and they derail your harmony. So we have those 5 daily practices as our solution. Number 1 is that daily objective audit, right? You're writing down your plan for the day. 2, 3-step check-in with your body, your breath, and your thoughts. 3 is to identify any pulls. You want to name that urge or name that version of you, right? Get some separation there. And 4, most important, is that fire tolerance, right? Sitting in no action while you're deregulated or dysregulated, right? 30 seconds minimum, 5 minutes if you're on tilt, right? Just breathe. Just try to re-regulate yourself, get back to a normal state. The market will be there. Another trade will come. You can pass the evaluation the next day. You don't have to rush. You have to have that state of being, not that state of seeking. That seeking, that lack energy, it's toxic. I need to get this. It chases shit away. And then 5 is that condition alignment, right? Only trade when things are aligned and those conditions are great. So immediate action steps this week, right? So tomorrow, right? You want to write down your objectives for the day. You want to, maybe the next session after that, you can implement this slowly. Do that three-state check-in before every trade. Later in the week, maybe you can start naming these pools, waiting 30 seconds when you feel it, taking that time to just name it. Oh, I want to revenge trade, man. I'm feeling like I got to get back at the market. You're just creating separation and awareness, high level stuff. And then, track the wins in this situation. Log every fire tolerance success. Just write it down. Make it more tangible, right? Add energy to it where our attention goes, energy flows, results show, right? So instead of all the time we spend on negative things, bad, fixing this, hey, I did a great job today. I'm writing this right in my journal with my hand, with a blue ink pen on white paper. Most powerful thing. I won't go into any of that, but I'm writing this down. Hey, I did a great job of feeling emotional upheaval and not taking any action. What I did instead was I did deep breathing to absorb that emotion for 6 minutes, right? Writing that down. Then, you can put together a successful week from doing those actions. But most important, you want to master number 4 first. No action when dysregulated. Every discipline trick that we talk about can actually work against you in this situation. You want to build the muscle of no action, and you'll be granted condition recognition. And that can take your trading to a whole nother level. And look, consistency isn't sexy, right? And we've defined earlier that we're talking about consistent input. And a lot of times when people say that, they're just talking about consistently profitable or consistent outputs. But this is the foundation of those outputs. It's how you get to there from here. It's how you go from sometimes profitable to reliably profitable. So let's focus on your consistency. Have a great week, traders. Hope this is helpful. And here's to being the hero of your story.